Welcome to the Smart Keys podcast. Today's session is a deep dive into the source material that, quite frankly, addresses something probably eating up a massive chunk of your day right now.
Oh, yeah. A terrifying amount of the day, honestly.
Right. We're looking at Felix Romer's Fyxer Review 2026, published over at smartkeys.org. And our mission for this deep dive is to really extract the strategic insights about AI workflow automation from this text. We want to determine if Fyxer AI is actually a true, comprehensive resource for modern professionals, or if it's, just another hyped-up feature with a slick interface.
Which is a super valid question. I mean, the hype cycle is real.
It is,
Yeah.
and the stakes are high, especially when you look at the big problem the article outlines. They cite the CloudHQ 2026 workplace email statistics, which this blew my mind, shows knowledge workers are losing up to 28% of their work week just reading, writing, and sorting messages.
Yeah, 28%. Just let that sink in for a second.
Right. It's like you've essentially taken on this second, entirely unpaid job as a digital janitor. You were hired for your expertise, your strategic thinking, but instead, you're just draining your cognitive battery, sweeping the floors of your inbox.
Exactly. You're just managing the mess instead of doing the work. And that 28% isn't just lost time on a clock, it's lost momentum. When you fracture your attention every 5 minutes to check an incoming message, you are completely destroying your capacity for deep work.
Okay, let's unpack this. How does Fyxer AI actually move beyond treating the symptoms of email overload to actually fixing the workflow root cause? Because, we've had filters and spam folders for decades.
Right, but those are just static rules. The expert analysis here shows Fyxer isn't just an app you have to remember to check. It's what they call a personal productivity layer.
A productivity layer?
Yeah, meaning it sits natively right inside your existing environment. So whether you use Gmail or Outlook, you aren't switching tabs. It uses machine learning to fundamentally re-engineer the triage process right at the root level.
So it's taming the chaos before you even see it.
Precisely. And the difference is dynamic learning versus those old static rules we used to use.
And because with traditional rules, you have to write the logic yourself, right? Like, if email is from this person, move it to this folder.
Exactly. But your modern inbox is way too complex for that. So Fyxer approaches it by actually analyzing your specific behavior. When you first integrate the tool, the system ingests and evaluates roughly 300 of your recent emails to establish a baseline.
Wait, 300 just right off the bat?
Yep, about 300 recent emails. But, and this is the cool part, it isn't just looking at the sender's name. It's looking at metadata and behavioral signals, like your reply velocity.
Meaning how fast I reply to certain people.
Exactly. Who do you respond to within 5 minutes versus, say, 5 days? Or it looks at time spent reading, like which newsletters do you open, look at for 2 seconds, and then immediately delete.
Oh, guilty as charged on the newsletters.
Right. We all do it. So it builds this complex behavioral matrix based on those 300 data points to mirror your exact sorting style. Then it funnels all the noise, the marketing blasts, the internal company updates you never read into specific background folders.
Which cuts down on decision fatigue before you even start your day. I get that. But, I understand the appeal. I really do.
Yeah.
But handing over the keys to my inbox to an algorithm gives me a lot of anxiety about false positives.
Oh, 100%. It's a huge leap of trust.
Yeah, because if I'm relying on an AI to hide my mail based on behavioral assumptions, what happens when it gets it wrong? The review mentions Fyxer uses these fixed, out-of-the-box preset categories. That rigidity feels like a massive problem.
It's definitely a common concern for new users.
Because I'm thinking, it's like a really aggressive bouncer at a VIP club who sometimes accidentally turns away your best friends. What if I have a highly specific, super sensitive client project that just doesn't fit neatly into one of those preset boxes? If the AI decides a crucial update from a new stakeholder is, low priority, that could cost a major contract. Aren't we just trading the stress of sorting for the stress of wondering what we missed?
What's fascinating here is the deliberate design trade-off the developers made regarding that exact friction point. Because you're right, the preset categories absolutely lack that deeper, granular customization on day one.
Right, you can't just build hyper-specific project labels immediately.
No, you can't. But the reason they built it this way is to eliminate the initial setup friction. If the system demanded that you manually construct complex routing rules before it gave you any value, nobody would use it. Adoption would just plummet.
That makes sense. People are lazy.
Yeah.
Or just too busy.
Exactly. So instead, the AI's learning curve adapts dynamically over weeks. Think of it less like that rigid club bouncer and more like an apprentice shadowing you for a week.
Okay, I like that analogy.
Yeah, so every time you pull an email out of a low priority folder and reply to it, you are actively training the model. Every time you archive something it flagged as important, it adjusts its weightings, it learns your regular contacts over time.
So the apprentice is watching my corrections and updating their internal manual, essentially.
Right.
But an apprentice still makes mistakes.
Exactly. Which is why the source material strongly advises that you adopt a mandatory monthly folder review.
Oh, so you still have to check its work.
Yeah, you have to spend, 10 to 15 minutes once a month auditing those low priority folders to catch any missed communications. You have to actively manage it. It's not this flawless set it and forget it magic wand.
You're just exchanging the daily micro stress of sorting hundreds of emails
Yeah.
for the macro responsibility of auditing the system once a month.
Exactly. You still have to manage the manager.
That makes a lot of sense. But let's follow the logical progression here. Let's assume the inbox is successfully sorted. The noise is hidden. My critical client emails are front and center. The cognitive drain of sorting is gone.
Which is a huge relief.
It is. But the next massive time sink is actually generating the content to reply to those critical emails. We're moving from data triage to content generation, which, that's a whole different type of mental fatigue.
Oh, absolutely. Staring at a blank screen is exhausting. And that is precisely where the automated drafting feature comes in. This is where the productivity gains start to compound exponentially.
Okay, how so?
Well, Fyxer doesn't just read and sort. It generates suggested replies for the emails it deems high priority. And we aren't talking about generic, canned responses like, sounds good, thanks.
The stuff that sounds like a robot wrote it.
Exactly. It uses natural language processing that you can actively train. You can upload custom documents like past successful proposals, standard operating procedures, or even just your own sent folder.
Oh, to teach it how you speak.
Yeah. It trains the AI on your specific tone, your vocabulary, and the nuanced context of your specific clients.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, and honestly where I have to push back hard.
Go for it.
For anyone listening right now who is a client-facing professional, like a high-level consultant, a recruiter, an account executive, your voice is entirely your brand. It's the whole foundation of your relationship with the client.
It's the most valuable asset you have.
Right. So the idea of handing over client communication to an AI feels incredibly risky. If I'm negotiating a delicate scope change with a client I've known for 5 years and the AI generates a draft, how do I ensure it captures the nuance? How do you make sure you don't suddenly sound like a corporate robot and just erode all that human capital you've built?
That is probably the most common and totally justified hesitation, and Felix Rimmer's review addresses this directly. The reality is, early drafts will probably feel a bit stiff.
So it's not perfect on day one?
No, definitely not. The NLP model needs data to refine its mimicry, but the output improves heavily over the first few weeks through a tight feedback loop. When the AI generates a draft, it is imperative that you don't just blindly hit send.
You have to edit it first.
You have to edit it. The system analyzes your manual corrections. If it notices that you, always soften a formal greeting, or if you consistently restructure its bulky paragraphs into bullet points, it picks up on those stylistic markers.
When it integrates them into the next draft.
Exactly.
So essentially learning my communication cadence as I go.
Precisely. However, the expert's strategic advice here is to cultivate what the review calls the quick review habit.
The quick review habit.
Yeah. You must treat the AI as an incredibly fast, maybe slightly overeager intern who prepares the first draft, but you are always the senior partner signing off on it.
Right, you're the final filter.
You remain the final editor, always checking it before hitting send. The strategic value here isn't completely removing yourself from the loop. It's reducing the time it takes to write a complex email from 10 minutes down to 30 seconds, while still maintaining total control over your brand voice.
I really like that framing. Shifting from being a writer to being an editor.
It's a completely different mental exercise.
It really is, because staring at a blank page requires massive activation energy. But editing a structurally sound draft, even if you have to tweak the tone a bit, is infinitely faster.
So much faster.
But, email is really only half the battle for modern professionals. The other half, the thing that fractures our days into these unusable 30-minute blocks, is the relentless stream of meetings.
Oh, the back-to-backs.
Right. If I'm perfectly organized in my inbox but trapped in back-to-back video calls all day, I'm still not doing deep work.
And that is where the calendar coordination side of Fyxer really elevates it from just a clever email trick to a true enterprise workflow tool.
Okay, tell me about the calendar side.
Well, it syncs directly with Google Calendar, Microsoft Outlook, and Google Meet. It handles the logistical nightmare of, joining calls across time zones automatically. But the real heavy lifting happens after the call ends.
What does it do?
The AI basically acts as a silent observer during the call and then generates incredibly detailed meeting summaries. The review notes, these summaries can be up to 950-word document.
Wait, pause on that for a second. 950 words.
Yeah, it's comprehensive.
That is not a quick bullet point recap. That is essentially a 2 to 3 page document. That is a massive amount of synthesized information to trust to a machine.
It's huge. It uses advanced transcription to pull out context, isolate specific actionable items assigned to different people, and then stores those notes in a searchable format.
But if I'm being perfectly honest, if I'm on a critical, high-stakes client call, say a sensitive HR dispute or a final pricing negotiation, I'm looking for the subtle hesitation in a client's voice, not just the raw text of what they said.
Right, the subtext.
Exactly. Furthermore, the article includes a very specific warning about this feature. There are documented reports of technical glitches, sync hiccups, and even connection drops, particularly when running Fyxer, alongside other recording software, or just during periods of heavy server load.
Yeah, the server load issue is a real thing.
If I'm relying on this bot to take the notes so I can be present and it glitches out halfway through, I'm flying blind. That sounds like a massive liability.
This raises an important question about the psychology of delegating memory to a machine. Because when the automation works perfectly, it feels like magic. You can finally make eye contact with the camera instead of furiously typing on your keyboard.
Which builds better rapport anyway.
Exactly. But the moment you introduce real-world variables, poor network conditions, choppy audio, overlapping speakers debating a point, or heavy niche industry jargon, the natural language processing can stumble.
It misinterprets things.
Yeah, it might misattribute a crucial quote or miss a nuanced agreement entirely. The source material is very pragmatic about this vulnerability. It explicitly advises that for critical high-stakes environments, you cannot afford to completely outsource your memory to a system dependent on server stability.
So what's the safety net then? Do I just go back to taking my own notes and defeat the whole purpose of the AI?
You deploy redundancy. For a standard internal sync, like a weekly check-in, let the AI handle everything.
Right, lower stakes.
But for a critical negotiation, you must keep a manual backup. A quick handwritten note of the most vital numbers or a secondary localized recording is essential insurance.
So use it as a backup, not the primary brain.
Exactly. Fyxer is fantastic for capturing the broad strokes and organizing the general action items. But when the nuances of a complex negotiation are on the line, you still need to be fully present, actively listening, and internally tracking the strategic flow of the conversation. It's a safety net, not a replacement for your professional attention.
That makes total sense. It's an augmentation of your capability, not a substitute for your judgment.
Beautifully put.
But look, all of these features, the behavioral sorting based on those 300 metadata points, the voice-trained drafting, the massive 950-word meeting synthesis, they all sound revolutionary on paper. But we have to ground this in reality.
Always comes down to the bottom line.
Exactly. For a business or an individual, efficiency ultimately comes down to return on investment. An assistant is only helpful if keeping them on the payroll actually makes financial sense. We really need a reality check on pricing, scaling, and how this fits into the wider software ecosystem.
Let's break down the economics as outlined in the review. The base professional plan for Fyxer starts at $30 per month.
Okay, $30. On the surface, if you are saving 28% of your work week, $30 is an absolute steal.
It really is. However, the review notes that sticker price can be deeply unpredictable as you scale up.
Unpredictable in what way? Are there hidden fees or something?
It's structured around usage thresholds. So the $30 isn't a flat, unlimited rate for heavy usage. If you are a professional who has an exceptionally high email volume, or if you spend, 8 hours a day in back-to-back meetings requiring those dense summaries, you can quickly hit specific processing limits.
And then what happens?
When you exceed those limits, the system triggers overage fees. The review specifically flags these unpredictable overage charges as a common point of friction.
I can imagine.
Right. If you're an operations director trying to budget for a growing team of 20 people, unpredictable monthly software costs are a total nightmare. You might budget $600 for the team, and suddenly your bill is $1,200 because your sales department had a massive outreach month.
Wow. Yeah, that is a massive caveat for anyone trying to build a predictable financial model. So how does this stack up against the wider market? The article specifically brings up a major competitor in this space, Gmelius. How do they compare structurally and, financially?
If we connect this to the bigger picture of how businesses actually operate, the choice between Fyxer and a competitor like Gmelius comes down to a fundamental strategic decision about the architecture of your workflow.
Okay, break that down for me.
Well, Gmelius comes in at a lower price point, starting at $19 per user per month.
So it's cheaper.
Cheaper, yes. But the philosophical approach to productivity is entirely different. The Gmelius is built for collaborative, structural workflows.
Meaning teamwork focused.
Exactly. If you are running a customer support team or a sales group that requires deep shared inbox routing, where multiple people are touching the same client accounts, assigning emails to each other, and building complex shared rule sets, Gmelius often wins.
Got it.
Think of Gmelius as building a highly efficient open plan office for your team to work together in.
Okay, so if the $19 Gmelius is the open plan office built for team collaboration, where does the Fyxer at a potentially unpredictable $30 a month actually make sense? Why pay the premium?
Because Fyxer is the premium private executive suite built for the busy individual professional.
Ah, individual.
Right. We're talking about solo operators, high-level consultants, agency founders, or independent recruiters. These are professionals who are managing their own massive volume of communication and their own packed calendars.
So they don't need the team features.
Exactly. They do not need the overhead of shared team control, complex routing, or collaborative ticketing systems. They just need fast, highly accurate drafts, a ruthlessly clean inbox, and reliable meeting notes solely for themselves.
Just personal speed.
Exactly. And for that specific user profile, the sheer volume of time saved on routine tasks easily justifies the $30 and even the risk of overage fees because it translates directly into more energy and hours spent on actual billable work.
It's the difference between investing in a robust logistics network to move a whole department versus hiring a dedicated chief of staff because you personally need to move faster.
That's a great way to look at it. You have to evaluate your actual daily reality. Are you bottlenecked by team collaboration, or are you bottlenecked by your own personal cognitive load?
That is exactly the strategic evaluation every professional needs to make before adopting these tools.
Yep.
So bringing this all together, we've looked at the chaos of the modern inbox and that staggering 28% time loss. We've explored the promise of the 300 email dynamic learning curve, the NLP drafting that learns your specific brand voice, the massive 950-word meeting summaries, and the very real financial trade-offs between solo speed and structural team collaboration.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We really have. So
Yeah.
what is the ultimate takeaway for the listener who is staring at an overflowing inbox right now?
The most practical takeaway from Felix Romer's analysis is the strong recommendation for a strict try-before-you-buy approach.
So test it out first.
Yeah, Fyxer offers a 7-day free trial, and the onboarding process is remarkably fast. The review notes it takes only 10 to 30 minutes to connect your accounts, grant the permissions, and let the algorithm start establishing its baseline.
10 to 30 minutes is nothing.
It's super quick. But the strategic advice is to run that trial on your absolute busiest inbox. Do not test it on a secondary low-volume account.
Oh, really? Put it through its paces.
Throw it into the fire, see how it handles the nuance of your specific meetings, test the draft quality against your most demanding clients, and monitor the calendar sync reliability in your real-world environment. Let the actual data dictate whether buying back your time is worth the $30 a month for your unique workflow.
Spending 30 minutes of setup time to potentially buy back over a quarter of your professional life seems like an incredibly asymmetrical bet that most professionals should be willing to take.
It's a huge potential payoff.
It is. But looking at all of this, the triage, the drafting, the meeting synthesis, it leaves me with a final thought to mull over. Something that wasn't explicitly spelled out in the review, but feels like the inevitable trajectory of our careers.
What's that?
Well, we spent this entire deep dive discussing how AI can handle the mechanics of our work. But if assistants like Fyxer eventually handle all of our routine triage, generate all of our initial drafts, and synthesize all of our meeting notes, the fundamental definition of professional productivity completely shift.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right. For decades, our value has been tied to sheer output. How many emails you can answer, how many reports you can generate. But if the machine does the output, it feels like we are all about to become middle managers of our own AI workforce. Will the future professional be measured not by how much they can do, but by how effectively they can curate, manage, and delegate to their digital counterparts?
It's a profound psychological shift. We really are moving from an era of execution to an era of curation. The supreme value of a professional might soon be entirely about their strategic judgment, their empathy, and their taste, rather than their sheer capacity for output.
Exactly. It's about knowing which draft to send, not just typing it the fastest.
Very true.
Well, that is a lingering thought to take with you into your next overflowing inbox. Thank you so much for tuning into this deep dive on the Smart Keys podcast. We highly encourage you to read Felix Frommer's full Fyxer review for all the granular technical details and a deeper look at the metrics we discussed. You can find that link right down in the show notes. And please, be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss our analysis on the tools shaping the future of work. Until next time, keep optimizing, keep questioning the mechanics behind the hype, and good luck out there in the digital trenches.